Hi guys.
What's up?
What's up? Mike here from Job Ready English, here to help international students succeed. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to this channel for new videos every Wednesday and Friday. Okay, so today we're going to be covering an 8-week segment where we cover a different company every week, and I'm actually going to talk to you about how you can pass those interviews, where we look at the actual interview questions and I explain to you in exactly the same way that I would to one of our clients about how to answer those questions. Sometimes they can be a bit difficult to unpack. So let's move on to question. You've been working hard on a high profile client project for several weeks. An important mid-product deadline is looming. Everyone on the team is feeling the pressure to meet the deadline. One even you stayed late to make sure the work you're responsible for is ready for your manager to review the next morning. A colleague who's working with you on the project approaches you to ask for your advice as they're unsure how to deal with a situation. They tell you that when they were asking the client some simple questions about a transaction, the client became defensive and seemed reluctant to answer their questions. They're concerned that vital information may be missing. The client is withholding information that may be important to the outcome of the project. Your colleague is going on holiday tomorrow for 2 weeks and needs to hand this piece of work over to you. What do you do? Your answer should cover the following. What would you say to your colleague? What would your main priorities be in dealing with this situation? How would you make sure these priorities are achieved? So let's just think about a framework for how we would answer situational judgment test questions. First of all, there is a goal or a hierarchy of priorities. So the thing to think about whenever I talk to clients about approaching these questions is, what is the goal or the outcome that you're seeking to achieve? So you can actually see within this answer that you've got to get some data together to make sure you can finish a project for the client. So it's really important that you find out what that data is and get that from the client. And your colleague is leaving tomorrow. So how would you go about answering this sort of question? The second thing to think about is that you have to be reasonable and also professional. I've had people turn around and say, well, I tell that person not to go on holiday. That's not going to happen, is it? So I'd say to the colleague, look, can you email me and tell me exactly what I need to do? What's the data that I need to get? Who's your contact at the client office? And better still, why don't you CC our manager as well, so that person knows what's going on as well. So that way, come the next day, I know exactly what to do when I'm trying to approach the client and get the information. The next thing I'm going to do, well, I'm just going to have to speak to the client and request the same information, and maybe also CC my manager. It's really important. One of the third thing I want you to think about with SJT questions is that kind of element of accountability. So you're a graduate, you're not a manager, so you want to think about, I always say to people, well, make sure you keep your manager in the loop, because the manager may not be on site, but they're certainly more prepared and more able to deal with this situation. Because you could think, well, what if I request the information from the client and they don't want to give it to me? They just say, oh, do you know what, I'm too busy. Well, that's a problem for your manager. It's not a problem for you. Sometimes your manager will have to get involved, maybe with somebody more senior to that person, and say, look, you're holding up the project. You need to sort this out. So how do we make sure these priorities are achieved? Well, a lot of this is about clarity of communication. So it's always very important to think of almost like a flow chart going from one thing to another. So first of all, my colleague is going on holiday. My colleague needs to email exactly what I need to say to the client. It needs to be BCC to my manager. Then next day I would contact the client, let them know the situation and tell them about the information they need to provide and why it's important. I BCC my manager, I wait for a response. Our next SJT question is, which reads, you've been working at the head office of a new retail client for the last week. Your manager has been encouraging you to look out for other opportunities where PwC could potentially help the client, outside of the scope of the current project. You think that if the client used new state-of-the-art technology, they could create staff training efficiencies. By implementing virtual and augmented reality, employees could practice new skills virtually, rather than needing to go to a residential training centre, which could reduce costs in the long term. This is neither the focus of your work nor your area of expertise. However, you recently listened to a presentation given by PwC's virtual reality consultants about how PwC is supporting clients to see great value from this offering. What do you do in this situation? Your answer should include, what would you need to find out in order to put the idea forward? How would you go about finding these things out? Why is it important to act in this situation? Okay, so you're working on behalf of PwC at a new client and you see a business opportunity. Something important to remember at professional services, in fact at any company, is that we're all salespeople. We're all looking for ways that we can sell our services. Professional services, potentially in this situation, you're somebody who doesn't know anything about virtual reality. You see an opportunity and you think, oh, okay, cool, that's something I can take advantage of. So what do you need to find out in order to put your idea forward? Well, it already says, so again, what's the outcome that we're looking to achieve? Well, we want that company to buy more services from PwC. Yeah, we want to provide the best service for them. So how do we reach that outcome? Well, first of all, we need to identify the needs of the client. But hold on, we don't know anything about virtual reality. So we wouldn't know what to say. I mean, we sit down and say, oh, I'm thinking about you should get some VR. And they go, oh, okay, cool. And what do you need to know? And you sit there and go, don't know. So what do we do about that? Well, we go and speak to a virtual reality consultant. That's one of the great things about working at a large company. We have so many experts. So we would go and speak to this VR expert and say to them, hey, I've got this client, they've got this particular situation where they're training this staff and I think it's costing them a lot of money and time. Have you done anything like that recently? I'm going to speak to them and I'd like to get you involved, but obviously I've got the relationship with the client and I would like to know what kind of information I need to get. So that's the first thing, we go to the person that knows. So we come to our final SJT question, which reads, you're working as part of a large team and a global banking client. The team members are based across 12 offices in the UK and internationally. You're enjoying the project and generally it's progressing well. However, you've come off of a conference call with the team that you chaired where you noticed that not everyone had the opportunity to share information. The purpose of the call was to understand the client's operations in each country, to support developing a new global proposition. This is the first time that most of the team have worked together, and people did not know much about each other's backgrounds or roles. Although you're very busy scheduling meetings and keeping the client updated, you feel that the relationships between team members could be improved. What do you do? Your answer should include, how might you improve how the team works together on future calls? What ideas could you put forward to support information sharing between officers? Why do you think it's important to do something? So this is quite a difficult question. The team works together on future calls. So what's the outcome? Well, the outcome is that the team works better together. So then they're producing a better result for the client that you're working with, and hopefully that means more business and a more sustainable contract over time. So how can we improve this? Well, nobody really knows each other. So there's a couple of different things that you can do. First of all, PwC has a proprietary social networking system. A lot of large companies do these days, which enables them to have chat to their colleagues, easily connect with each other, and also transfer thoughts and ideas in a privacy and secure environment. So you'd want to maybe connect to all these different people all over the world and form your own little group. You know, have a conversation, get something going. You might say, well, maybe people can send for a resume and you can put together everybody's profile, what they're expert at and what they're not expert at. Say you're in London and you're having problems around risk management for this particular client, and you actually find out that one of your colleagues who's based in Tokyo is a risk management expert. Well, instead of you having to do that work yourself, you'd surely want to refer on to the risk management expert and say to them, you know, hey, I've got this problem, we're working on the same client. The next thing to think about is maybe the difficulty is that you're all over. What's a big problem with communication when people aren't together? Well, people receive information at different periods of time. People know different things. Maybe somebody knows something more than somebody else. And if you multiply that by a number of people, it becomes really difficult. So, you know, creating a centralized hub where people can communicate, like Slack or a secure system, and also making sure that there's a really secure agenda before every meeting. An agenda is something that's generated, say, in this meeting we're going to talk about A, B, C, and to give people more than enough time to comment on that, and also to make sure that you know who are your subject matter experts. So what ideas could you put forward? Just having a mailing list, having live chat support, having something. Generally, it's better. The reason why Slack works so well is because you get those updates in real time. You can tag people. Why is it important to do something? Well, it's important because better communication will hopefully mean better results. Good answers about repetition and practice over time. So for each of these answers that we've been through, I hope the information that we've provided has been helpful. But in order to get a great answer, you must make sure that you practice your answer by speaking it out loud, recording it on a camera and looking it back, and letting your brain actually self-correct. Every time you watch that video and you think, oh, there's something I change, something I do better. So there is no substitute for practice. If you want to be a really effective communicator, really good at delivering these interview answers, you must make sure to repeat and practice your answers over and over again.
So finally, talking about the SJT questions, these are going to be sort of rank response answers, so ranking 5 answers in terms of best to worst. Really, this is just practice, so this is pretty rinse and repeat. I thoroughly recommend that you use Job Test Prep. We use it with all our clients. We've got a really good relationship with them. They've been around since 1992. They've got a really comprehensive package of tests at a reasonable price. If you want to find out more about them, you can find a link in the description to this video, and of course the disclaimer, we are an affiliate with them because we use them. Anyway, with SJT questions, I would just say, err on the side of caution, use your common sense, and also think about just what's the safest and most risk-averse way to solve this problem. Without further ado, that's all from me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.